Hello friends, welcome to Tekshala by Pavi. Today's our topic is closure. Have you ever written a function inside another function and noticed that in a function remember the variable of outer one even after outer function is gone? That mysterical behavior is called closure. And today we'll break it down step by step with simple example you will never forget. So closure is formed when a function is able to remember and access its lexical scope even when it's executed out of function scope. That means your function. So what is happening basically when you are calling any function, when you make a call to that function, it is getting removed from the stack, and along with that function all the variables that we declare inside that function are got lost. For example, if I say here, say hello, I have one variable where a equal to 10, and then I'm trying to call this value of a here, right? What will happen? And I print here console.log a. So this is a normal function. When this function was called, it was doing something here. Let's say I'm doing printing here console.log a. Okay, so this function is called, it has assigned some variable at a10, and then I printed this variable, and then after that when I try to print this value, I'm giving this reference error. Why? Because once the function is executed, it is removed from the call stack along with the whatever the data member or variable it has. Okay, to make it private or to maintain the state of this variable, what we can do, we can use a closure here. Okay, so what is closure? So basically I'm creating one outer function here. Outer function is returning in a function, right? Return in a function, and this inner function has access to a return function. This is an anonymous function, so I don't need to write a function name here. I have some count variable here, let count equal to 0, and then I'm incrementing the counter here and just printing the value of counter here, counter. Okay, so here you see, if I make a one variable, let counter equal to outer function, right? So when I call this outer function, basically it will get executed, and as I said, right, it will be removed from the call stack, but there is a one mysterious behavior here. So here we are returning the inner function. Basically this inner function is holding the all the data there what was there on the parent function. So even if this outer function is executed there, right, if I call this counter function here, what will happen? Let's see. I'll call multiple time here. So each time you call, it is incrementing the value. Again I am calling this one counter, it will be a 3. So this is how the closure is created here. Basically it is creating a private scope for the variable. So now suppose if I remove this variable from here and move it to top, right, will it work? Let's see. Counter is declared. I'll call as my counter. Still it is working, but there is some limitation here, right? Because this variable is there in a outer scope, that is a global scope, and it can be modified by anyone. So better it to move to the function that is outer function, and this can be remembered throughout the execution only by the inner function, and that is what the closure is all about. So in JavaScript, function doesn't carry their code, they carry the scope chain, meaning they remember the environment in which they were created. So here the counter, my counter, it looks like count first in its local scope and then the scope of the outer function, and it find it. That means it is remembering the scope and it is maintaining the state of that counter variable. So real life scenario. So whenever you want to maintain some data privacy, right, or encapsulation, that time we can go for closure. We need to have function factories. So for example, let's see the example. So I have one function here, multiplier, and I can pass any factor here by what number I need to multiply. So I will call factor. and then inside here I am returning one function. This function has num here. Okay, and just I am returning the multiplication of this num and factor. Right, now suppose I want to create a multiplier for double divisable. So what I will do, I will create a multiplier and I will pass to here. So whatever the number I will pass here, for example I will create number here num1 equal to, so for the double if I have passed 3 here, right? So what will happen when you call multiplier, it is assigned this factor as 2 here, so it is created multiplier for 2. Now this function is executed there, right? It is removed from call stack, but now this 2 value is still maintained in the factor, this variable, this state. So what is happening there, this double is holding this reference to this 2, and now 2 into 3 it will be a 6. So if I print the value of num1, let's see what I get, 6. So this multiplier I can leverage it to make it multiplier of 3, right? And I can call this triple. So here if I use another variable num3, num2, and then I call this triple method and I pass 3. So this 3 and 3 it will be 9. So let's see what I get. I am getting 3 and 6 here. Another example is event handler. And what are the common mistake we are doing? Basically I will show you one example. So I have one for loop here, for where I equal to 1, I less than equal to 3, and I plus plus. So inside for loop what I am doing, I have one set timeout function here, which is basically going to console.log a I after some seconds, let's say 100 milliseconds. Let's see what happens. Where I equal to 0, you see it is printing 4 3 times, because of one loop starting from 1 to 3, so it is printing this 4, whatever the value was there that was incremented last, it will print 4 4 4 3 times, because all these functions share the same I from outer scope, right? This outer scope is I, so it is sharing the same scope here. Now to make it fix, what we can do, we can make it late here, right? Since late is a block scope and we are this inner function can access the outer function, right? Let's see what we get. See, we got 1 2 3. Using let create a new block scope for each iteration. So for each iteration it will create a block scope, and that is how it will, this set timeout function will save that value into that memory for each iteration. That is how it is calling 1 2 3 here. So to summarize, closure happen when functions remember the variable from its outer scope. They are super helpful when you want data privacy, factories and asynchronous code. And yes, they power a lot of JavaScript magic under the hood. If this helps you to understand closure, hit subscribe and drop comments saying closure clicked. Thank you.